Tonight on Reporting Scotland, a teenager is jailed for 6 years for planning a mass shooting at an Edinburgh school. Felix Winter idolised the killers behind the 1999 Columbine High School massacre in the US. Also on tonight's programme, we're live at Glasgow Airport as passengers have been facing delays after problems with air traffic control. President Trump calls Nicola Sturgeon a terrible First Minister as he praises John Swinney.
I didn't have a lot of respect for the woman that preceded him. I thought she was terrible as the First Minister of Scotland. But I think John is doing a very good job as First Minister.
Nicola Sturgeon has hit back, saying the feeling's mutual. Hopes for the restoration of a Borders studio belonging to a fabric designer behind 70s fashions from the likes of Chanel and Dior.
And coming up in the sport, it's a big night in Athens for Rangers as they look to move a step closer to the Champions League.
Hello, I'm Laura Miller. Welcome to Wednesday's programme. A former student who said he wanted to carry out a mass shooting at his own Edinburgh secondary school has been jailed for 6 years. Felix Winter, who's now 18 and from Kirknewton in West Lothian, told classmates he idolised the killers behind the Columbine High School massacre in the United States in 1999. He pleaded guilty to a charge under the Terrorism Act and a breach of the peace between June 2022 and July 23. Katrina Renton reports.
Felix Winter was aged 15 and 16 when he committed the offences. A large-scale police investigation was initiated in the summer of 2023 after a social media photo of him at school in combat gear and carrying an imitation gun caused panic among pupils and parents. He previously pleaded guilty to a charge under the Terrorism Act and a breach of the peace. Today he was sentenced.
Let me speak plainly. The whole material available to me indicates that it is at least arguable that you were progressing towards the brink of perpetrating a mass school shooting at the school at which yourself were a pupil. You were radicalised and your statements of intent could not have been clearer. Your violent ideation undoubtedly grew in its intensity from early 2022 through to summer 2023.
The court heard students at the school told police that Felix Winter had spoken excitedly when he talked about Columbine and other school shootings. The Columbine High School massacre in Colorado took place in 1999. 12 students and a teacher were shot dead. The court heard Winter described a possible mass shooting at his school as doomsday. He said it would occur on April Fool's Day or his last day of 6th year. And he spoke about setting up tripwires at fire exits and of placing pipe bombs at the school. He claimed he would buy a 3D printer to help construct a firearm. It transpired that Felix Winter had been dressed in the combat gear for a drama class and was taught about mass shootings in modern studies classes. The court heard after Winter was stopped by police under the Terrorism Act, officers seized devices and found files on a mobile phone about homemade firearms. He had 65 videos of Columbine. It emerged Winter was involved with the UK-wide Prevent Counter-Terrorism programme 4 times in 2022, 23, 24 and 2025. A spokesperson for Edinburgh City Council, which runs the city's state schools, said while we are unable to comment on individual cases, we want to reassure the public that we have robust safeguarding procedures in place. Felix Winter's lawyer, Sheila McCall KC, said that a risk assessor considered that he now displays remorse for offending and a better understanding of the harm that he caused. Ms McCall previously told the court the teenager was vulnerable and a transgender person, and that would need to be taken into account. But Lord Arthurson said Felix Winter was involved in a prolonged, deeply disturbing and apparently escalating course of criminal conduct and is to serve 6 years in prison. Katrina Renton reporting Scotland at the High Court in Glasgow.
All outbound flights from the UK have been affected by a technical issue with air traffic control this afternoon. The problem's now been resolved, but there has been a knock-on effect. Well, our news correspondent Jamie McIver joins me now from Glasgow Airport. Jamie, what more can you tell us then?
Well, certainly it was a period of intense disruption earlier on this afternoon here at Glasgow Airport and for other major airports across Scotland and the UK. The problems with the National Air Traffic Service began at about 3:30 this afternoon. They've now been resolved, but we still don't know just what the cause of the technical glitch was. Now, here at Glasgow Airport, planes are now taking off again, but there have been a few delays and knock-on cancellations because of the problems earlier. The advice to passengers is to check with their airline, but certainly things do seem to be getting back to normal here. There are no significant queues inside the terminal building. Over at Edinburgh Airport, 10 departing flights were held earlier because of the problems, but again, things there are now getting back to normal, while Aberdeen Airport has also warned of knock-on delays. So the picture across Scotland is that airports are open, flights are taking off again, but the possibility of knock-on delays and cancellations, so passengers are advised to check with their airlines.
OK, Jamie at Glasgow Airport, thank you. The US President's Scottish holiday might be over, but Donald Trump is still making headlines here, this time over comments he made en route back home to Washington. Speaking to journalists on Air Force One, he referred to Nicola Sturgeon as a terrible First Minister of Scotland. Well, our political correspondent David Walls-Lockhart is here. David, these leaders have history, don't they?
They do. There's no love lost between Nicola Sturgeon and Donald Trump. When she was First Minister, she stripped him of a business ambassador role for Scotland. She was very critical of some of his rhetoric. When she stood down as First Minister, he took to social media to call her a failed woke extremist. So I think it's safe to say they don't get on. Donald Trump, en route back to Washington after he'd been in Scotland, he spent around 40 minutes taking questions from journalists, and he was actually asked about whisky tariffs and if he was going to lower them like John Swinney would like him to, and he went off on a bit of a tangent.
No, we really didn't discuss it much, but I have a lot of respect for him. Mr. President, and I didn't have a lot of respect for the woman that preceded him. I thought she was terrible as the First Minister of Scotland. But I think John is doing a very good job as First Minister.
Ouch. Well, Nicola Sturgeon has gone to her favourite platform these days, Instagram, to hit back at Donald Trump. She said, "Feeling was mutual, Donnie, forever proud to represent all the things that offend your view of the world." And she went on to joke that she was disappointed that this had come too late for her to put an endorsement, or perhaps lack of endorsement, on her upcoming memoirs.
As you say, no love lost, it seems. But it is a reminder of how unpredictable Donald Trump can be. And it's interesting to see that Keir Starmer and John Swinney did avoid coming into the firing line while he was here.
Yeah, you kind of never know what the US president is going to say, but when it comes to John Swinney, when it comes to Keir Starmer, he had nothing to say but really talk about them in completely glowing terms. If you're John Swinney, the one thing that may slightly concern you about that clip, apart from his words about his political ally Nicola Sturgeon, is that he seemed to suggest they hadn't really talked about whisky that much. Getting whisky tariffs down, making it more expensive to buy in the US, is one of the key things that John Swinney wanted to get out of that meeting he had with Donald Trump. And he said that he was told to take away everything he brought up to the US ambassador. He's done that, and he's still fighting hard, in his words, to try and get the whisky tariffs lowered.
Well, we shall see what happens there. OK, thank you for the moment, David. Well, more than 7,000 officers were involved in the police operation during President Trump's visit here. Police Scotland says just over 6,000 came from their ranks and the rest from other forces in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. The President visited his golf courses in Ayrshire and Aberdeenshire, meeting the EU President, Prime Minister and the First Minister. And there were 4 arrests related to the visit. Well, it's just over 24 hours since President Trump left Scotland. Deals were made and golf was played. But what was the impact of his visit, and will it lead to a tourism boost? Our reporter Suzanne Allen has more.
It was billed as a working holiday, but there was a fair bit of politics, a lot of golf, and the opening of a new course in Aberdeenshire. President Trump's vacation even made headlines in the US.
If you're wondering why you're feeling a little bit better about America today, it's because Donald Trump is in Scotland.
Some more news from Trump's trip to Scotland today. During an event with the British Prime Minister, it was a little difficult to hear what Trump was saying.
Politics aside, does the beauty and majesty of Ayrshire and Aberdeenshire, showcased around the world, translate into pounds for the Scottish economy? Donald Trump's son seems to think so.
I actually view it as maybe the greatest infomercial in the history of the world for Scotland.
Around 15 miles from Trump International, tourists at Cruden Bay Golf Course come for the unique experience.
And to come here together and have this special time to, walk the links together, and, just it's truly special.
Yeah, we've talked about it for some time, and when he gave it to me for my birthday, Christmas, it made me cry.
I get to see such courses that were built in the 1800s and some 1700s, and where golf was started.
Business leaders say the Trump International courses are benefiting the local economy.
Tourism is now of huge importance to the northeast of Scotland. £1.2 billion worth of GVA to this region last year supports 12,000 jobs. It is of growing importance, and the addition of a course like this is only going to enhance that further.
Post-COVID, visitors from the US are coming back. But one tourism academic says any big event showcases Scotland at its best.
These kind of what we call mega events really do put Scotland on the map. So everything from things like the Commonwealth Games to COP26, and having high-profile visitors like Trump coming, they do portray Scotland in a positive light.
The President has gone home, but the economic effects should last. Suzanne Allen, reporting Scotland.
To some of the day's other stories now. The former Scottish football captain Colin Hendry has admitted harassing a former partner. The 59-year-old ex-professional footballer was sentenced to a 12-month community order and restraining order at Preston Magistrates Court this morning. The court heard he caused his victim immense distress with intimidating and persistent behaviour for over 6 months after their relationship ended. Police are appealing for information after a 29-year-old woman was killed in a crash on the A9 near Invergordon in the Highlands. Emergency services were called to the scene at about 2 o'clock this morning. The road between Kildare and Tomich was closed for more than 9 hours, but has now reopened. And the death of a pensioner who was scalded after being trapped in a hotel room bath could have been avoided, a fatal accident inquiry has ruled. Wallace Hunter died at the Pitlochry Hydro in 2019. The FAI found that the failure of safety components in the unmaintained bath tap caused Mr. Hunter, seen here with his son, to accidentally discharge scalding water into the bath. The hotel is now under new ownership. Now, a Japanese-based company has taken over one of the most important industrial sites in the Highlands. The port of Nigg, which is central to offshore renewable energy development, has been sold to Mitsui by Global Energy for an undisclosed sum. Well, our business and economy editor joins me now from Nigg. Douglas, what more can you tell us about this deal then?
Well, Laura, the Port of Nigg was developed some decades ago for the first phase of the oil and gas industry, building these huge steel structures that were floated out to the North Sea. And you can see from down the Cromarty Firth there that oil and gas remains very important to the economy here. But the future for the Port of Nigg is very much about renewable energy. Next to it, a factory being built by Sumitomo, also of Japan, to make subsea cables alongside all the other manufacturing that's hoped for here. Now, for the past 14 years, the Port of Nigg's been owned by Global Energy Group, founded by Roy McGregor, known to many people as the affable chairman of Ross County Football Club, but also a very successful businessman here. He's invested heavily, £120 million in this facility alone to get it ready for the boom that's expected in renewable energy. A lot of that also public money for quaysides, for fabrication yards, for the space to lay down the huge components for offshore wind turbines. He's decided he's going to sell to a minority shareholder, investor, Mitsui of Japan. It's been there for 13 years and now wants to take over the whole of the company. It's in 16 sectors already, 61 countries, more than 50,000 employees. So it's a heavyweight investor. It's got real heft, it's got patience also to wait for the contracts coming through for renewable energy. And it's a vote of confidence in this part of the Highlands and in the Scottish economy and the future of renewable energy.
And Douglas, and what do you think it does tell us then about the state of the energy markets?
Well, it does suggest there's a problem with this hiatus. There is a great expectation of what is coming with a boom in offshore wind for the east and the north of Scotland. But there's been something of a log jam. The pipeline seems to be stuck. Many of the contracts that had been hoped for are not coming through consistently for a number of reasons to do with the government and its regulator Ofgem. We're awaiting decisions about the shape of the market. Planning consents take time as well, and also putting the money together in order to make this whole sector work, the billions of pounds that will be required. Now, it may be that a big global investor can have the patience to do this, but Mitsui is just another example also of a Scottish company that has an asset, a vital asset for the Scottish economy, which is going to be making decisions about its future in very distant capitals.
OK, Douglas at the Portnaig, thank you. Now, a Scottish Nobel Prize-winning chemist has predicted that drugs to treat Alzheimer's disease will be available within 5 years. Princeton University's Professor David Macmillan, who's originally from Bellshill in North Lanarkshire and who recently had a portrait of him unveiled at the Scottish Portrait Gallery in Edinburgh, has been speaking to Martin Geisler and me on the BBC's Scottcast.
I would bet my house that within 5 years there will be marketed drugs for Alzheimer's.
Wow.
In the next 5 years. You know, my father died of vascular dementia, and my aunt had dementia. I think that's such a horrible way to sort of go. And from my perspective, if we can remove that, no matter how you feel about the size of the population, that's a good thing.
And you can hear that full interview on Scottcast, on BBC Sounds and on iPlayer. Now, it's been in a state of decline for more than 2 decades, but now the dilapidated studio of a world-famous textile designer has been snapped up at auction for more than £250,000. A consortium, including the National Trust for Scotland, now owns the property just outside Selkirk, which was built for designer Bernard Klein in 1972. Cameron Buttle explains.
For more than 20 years, this unique, iconic piece of Scottish architecture has been on the building's at-risk register. Unused, vandalised and falling into disrepair. Now there is hope that it will be brought back to its former glory.
A quiet border road between Selkirk and Galashiels, and tucked in amongst the oaks and elms and birches.
And that was back in the 1970s, when it was built as a studio for Bernard Klein, a Serbian-born textile designer famous for his creations with the likes of Dior and Coco Chanel. Back then, he explained why he had chosen to base himself just outside Selkirk.
I had a very good advisor in London who said to me, for heaven's sake, stay in Scotland, because then there will be an air of mystery about your activities, wrapped in Highland mist, so to speak. And strangely enough, it works from that point of view too. But naturally, if we didn't really love living here and want to live here, it would make much more sense to move to the continent, or at least to London.
The celebrated architect Peter Wormersley designed the studio, one of the many buildings he created across the borders. But the connection to Klein and his work drew serious interest at the auction today. The winning bid more than 15 times the guide price.
It was a difficult moment this morning bidding for a thing of such great heritage in a public auction. We were well prepared in many ways because we've been working behind the scenes to understand the need of the building in the future and identify the sort of cost that will be involved in restoration.
It took a consortium of design and heritage organisations to raise enough money to buy the building. It's hoped now to create a permanent home for the Bernard Klein archive that will inspire future designers. But the job is not done yet. It's estimated it will cost £3 million to restore this building, and that money has not been raised yet. Cameron Buttle reporting, Scotland, Selkirk.
Before we move on, just to clarify, in our top story, the graphic displayed the incorrect name. To confirm, it should have said Felix Winter. OK, let's get the sport now with Sheila. Big night for Rangers.
It sure is, Laura. Hello there. Rangers are looking to move a step closer to the Champions League when they take on Panathinaikos in the second leg of their second-round qualifier. Russell Martin is stuck with the same team that won 2-0 in last week's game at Ibrox. Jack Butland is in goal with a back four of Tavernier, Suter, Giga and Aarons. In midfield, it's Rothwell, Diomande and Raskin, with Dowell, Danilo and Curtis in attack. Well, our reporter Andy Burke is in Athens for tonight's game.
Well, Rangers put themselves in a terrific position to qualify from this Champions League second-round tie with that 2-0 victory over Panathinaikos in the first leg at Ibrox last week. And the head coach, Russell Martin, clearly liked what he saw from his side, because he's gone same again, an unchanged team for the second leg here at the Olympic Stadium. And that means another chance for young Finlay Curtis to impress up front. He, of course, grabbed the headlines with that terrific opening goal, which really set Rangers on their way in the first leg. So a big night for him, big night for Rangers and their fans that have travelled here to Athens. We'll hear from some of them very shortly. But firstly, let's hear from Russell Martin. A big night for him also. And as we approach kick-off here at the Olympic Stadium, I caught up with him a short time ago.
Well, I think it's a huge part of our process, our growth, our evolution as a team, to see how we get through this. So I'm really excited about that. I'm looking forward to learning even more about us as a group and where we're at. And for guys to trust each other and trust the work, that'll be fun.
You had a great impact from your bench last week on such a hot night. Is that going to be important again?
Yeah, definitely. I spoke about that in every team meeting going. I think that we're going to need everyone, and the players who are not starting the game have to be ready to finish it. They have to be ready to make an impact. We had that the other night, and tonight needs to be the same.
We should take a victory tonight. I'm confident we're going to get a victory tonight, or certainly go through to the next round anyway.
Russell Martin's maybe not come to a place like this before in the heat, where you have to go and just dig out a result. Maybe even a lot of fans here would take a 1-0 loss because it means we progress to the next round.
Yeah, I think there's still a few doubters with Martin. I think it wasn't the choice that people wanted, but I think you're right. I think if we get the result this week, we get through the next tie, beat the next round, go to the playoff, I think the fans will turn on him, or the fans will be on his side.
Yes, a big night for Russell Martin so early on in his reign. What a confidence boost it would be for him and for Rangers to come through this tie. Panathinaikos versus Rangers. We've got live coverage on the BBC Scotland channel. Kick-off is at 7 o'clock. Andy Burke reporting Scotland, the Olympic Stadium in Athens.
Now, Hibernian boss David Gray has urged his players to harness the backing of a sellout crowd tomorrow as they try to overcome Midtjylland in the Europa League qualifiers. Easter Road will see the highest home attendance since the 90s when the sides meet in the second leg with the tie level at 1-1.
Win, lose or draw, they're the ones that go through it, they're the ones that have to pay their money to support the club. And this is their reward. The trip they had over to Denmark, everyone says it was a real positive one. The stories, the videos you've heard about it, which is great. And then, you know, a sellout at Easter Road, what more can you ask for as a player to go and play in these situations? And it's why you should want to come and play for this club when you do. The genuine opportunity to play in Europe, and these are the nights that, you know, don't come around very often in your career potentially, so you need to make the most of them and make sure they don't pass you by.
Dundee United are also in European action tomorrow. They have a narrow lead and will hope to build on that in Luxembourg against Una Strazen. Zach Sapsford scored the only goal of the game when the sides met at Tannadice. United manager Jim Goodwin is quietly confident his side can book a place in the third qualifying round of the Conference League.
The pleasing aspect of last week was we limited them to only 2 shots on target over the course of the 90 minutes. We had 8 or 9 shots on target, and we believe we should have taken at least another 2 or 3 of those good opportunities that we had. Credit to the Strassen goalkeeper, he made a couple of good saves on the night, but you know, we've got positives we can take from it, and there's certainly parts of the game that we need to improve on, and we've tried to work on that during the week, and hopefully, you know, that will show in the game tomorrow night.
The son of President Trump says his father's golf course at Turnberry deserves to host the Open again. The Ayrshire venue, regarded as one of the best in golf, last hosted the championship in 2009. The R&A previously suggested the event wouldn't return while Trump was in power, but have recently changed their stance, saying local infrastructure is the main stumbling block. Eric Trump has been speaking to BBC Sport editor Dan Rowan.
I think everybody will tell you that Turnberry is the best course on the Rota. It will return at the right time, and
when
again,
realistically, do you think?
You know, that's not my decision.
Would you like to see it there in 2028? Is that realistic?
Listen, I'd love to see it in 2028, and we'd certainly be ready for it. And if it's 2029, that's great. And if it's 2030, I mean, you know, chances are by the time an Open comes back around, you know, kind of the political end is over. His time in government will be gone, and you know, we'll be back to being, you know, kind of a strictly commercial company.
What would it mean to you to have the Open return to Turnberry for the first time since 2009?
A tremendous amount. I put my heart and soul into I got to Turnberry and it was a sick puppy. I took that course back to square one and rebuilt it. We put in hundreds of millions of dollars, and Turnberry is the best, and everybody says it. It deserves it. I truly think that my father's been a guy who also deserves it. There's no one that's been better for the game of golf than my father.
And the head of the R&A said he would love to see it return to Turnberry, but there are logistical challenges, as the governing body puts it. Do you accept that reasoning?
Listen, I think any challenge can be worked through and solved with, you know, smart people. You could host the Open Championship on that course tomorrow. It's impeccable. The standard that we run by every single day. We don't ramp up for tournaments. Mm-hmm. We expect a tournament to be able to play on one of these courses any given day, and Turnberry's ready for it.
What have you done for the area?
have we done for the area? You know, well, let's start on the West Coast. We saved Turnberry and we invested hundreds of millions of dollars into it, a property that would have otherwise fallen into disrepair. On the east coast of Scotland, we built two of the greatest masterpieces in history, have also contributed millions and millions of dollars. This building was practically falling down. And guess what? We built 2 golf courses that will be here 500 years from now, that will still be creating jobs, that will still be attracting tourists. They'll be one of the great icons anywhere in the world. We've done a hell of a job. And for anybody to say that the Trump Organization hasn't brought economic development to Scotland, I mean, it's freaking laughable.
And that's all your sport, Laura.
Thank you very much, Sheila. How's the weather looking, Kirstine?
Well, it's been a mixed bag, really. We've got high pressure close by, but not completely dominant. So changeable conditions today again. Thank you very much. Good evening to you. Yes, we've had rather a mixed bag today. We've had some sunshine, we've had areas of cloud, patchy drizzle and a few showers in the mix too. Now this evening and tonight we'll see this weak front pushing its way eastwards. The rain pepping up a little across Aberdeenshire, Murray, Caithness and Orkney for a time. Behind that, some scattered showers moving into the northwest, but come further south and east, it's largely dry with clear spells and it'll be a mild night. So to tomorrow then, that early rain across the northeast will continue to pull away. And really in the morning especially, it's a mixture of sunshine and showers. The showers cropping up almost anywhere, but come the afternoon, I think they'll gradually become confined to northern and eastern areas where they'll be fairly light and generally hit and miss. Some spells of sunshine breaking through the clouds, decent sunshine for southern and central areas and across the west tomorrow afternoon. A slightly fresher feel though tomorrow, a northwesterly breeze and highs of around 19 or 20 Celsius. Tomorrow evening that rain will push its way in towards Shetland, otherwise though largely dry, just the odd shower. Now for Friday, high pressure is still anchored to the southwest and it's extending a ridge towards us. So the weather is settling down and drying out. Generally, there will be plenty of sunshine around, just a scattering of light showers, which again will tend to diminish as we go through the course of the day. And temperatures again similar to Thursday, around 16 to 19 or 20 Celsius with a northwesterly breeze once again. To the weekend, and that high pressure is really going nowhere fast, sitting to the southwest. It will though allow a weak frontal system to push in on Saturday. And here is a cold front. That is Saturday night into Sunday's weather. So again on Saturday, I think a lot of dry weather. The best of the sunshine will be in the east, cloudier in the west and with some patchy light rain affecting northwestern areas. That's the forecast. Back to you, Laura.
Thank you very much, Kirstine. And that is reporting Scotland for now. The late news is at 10:30 tonight. Don't forget the football is just getting started over on the BBC Scotland channel. In the meantime, from everyone here, enjoy your evening. Good night.